The 2026 NFL Draft is in the books, and the Carolina Panthers have selected their picks. And after the 26th draft, with the Carolina Panthers have selected for depth, the future, or the present. Now that everybody else has had their opportunity to chime in, Mr. CeeLo will give you his opinion of what the Carolina Panthers did in the 26th draft. And I can tell you, I cannot hold or contain myself. Why? I'll explain on this edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Welcome back, Growlers. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on another edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Again, you are joined by the one and only Mr. CeeLo. And guys, I hope you are doing great, as I am. I'm overly excited about what the Carolina Panthers were able to do. But guys, before we get started, I just want to give a big growl out to the people down in South Georgia as the fires continue to burn down towards Valdosta and into Florida. I hope you guys are safe, and our hearts go out to those who have lost homes, and our hearts and prayers go out to those that are down there fighting those fires. You guys be safe. God bless you. Well, I can only say I'm absolutely ecstatic. Cannot say it any better. We got some great scouts over in Charlotte. That's all you guys can say. And guys, I'm going to tell you, if you're listening to a certain group of people that are telling us that we needed to take a tight end or possibly a safety, you don't have to watch those guys. And you don't have to watch me if you're not happy about what you think, what I think here. Because realistically, Panther Nation, we came too far last year to go backwards. See, a little bit of common sense goes a long way. While so many people were talking about Kenyon Sadiq, thank you, New York Jets organization, for saving us from ourselves. Because as much as I believe Dan Morgan was not going to select Kenyon Sadiq, I believe this daggum fan base would have burned it to the ground because they are just not that intelligent sometimes. Panther fans, Monroe Feeling was a great pick for us. We don't know Ike Ekwonu's fate. We really do not know his fate. Because realistically, every time this Panther offensive line has had trouble, our offense goes in the tank. Many of you need to stop and think real quick, just what kind of depth do we have? Not much. In the last 2 seasons, our depth on the offensive line has been a massive payoff. Last year, we would not even made the playoffs had it not been for guys like Cade Mays, Yosh Nijman, and we got to throw Brady Christensen. I don't think he's been re-signed yet. I mean, look, Monroe Freeling, whether he sees the field next season or not, he's the future of this O-line. And he can be developing. Do you guys remember Taylor Moton didn't start the first season? look how effective and efficient he's been. Panther Nation, we have to continue to build the trenches. This is why, as much as many of you look at it and say this is not the sexiest pick or the sexiest draft that the Panthers have, it is by far one of the most efficient ones, because this fortifies the tackle position. Monroe Freeland can play both positions. And Moton, for what it's worth, and I'm going to be honest with you, we would love to see him retire a Panther, but if Freeland develops, one of these two guys could be off the cap of the Carolina Panthers next season, that being Taylor Moton or Ike Ekwonu. Now, I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just saying that could be a place where we could cut some coins. Now, we've already seen with A'Shawn Robinson, the Carolina Panthers do not mind making sentimental cuts. Which leads me to the second pick, our round 2 pick. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I see the grades that this pick has gotten, I gave this an A+. 6th best tackle, selected at 50. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. To me, this has to be the pick here. I was shocked that Caleb Banks went before he did. Now, in the first round. Good luck with that one, Minnesota. Maybe you can get something out of him that Florida wasn't able to. Now, I did want Caleb Banks. Don't get me wrong, because when he plays in a limited role, oh, he's destructive. Much so like the 6'3", 318-pound Texas Tech product, Lee Hunter. Let me go ahead and let you guys know something. When we look at what we lost last year in A'Shawn Robinson, we lost, this is not a good comparison, but anyway, the Robin to the Batman, which is Derek Brown. And for the most part, A'Shawn Robinson held his own. I think he had like 8-9 tackles fewer than Derek Brown and 2.5 sacks fewer, 3 sacks fewer than Derek Brown. Turk Wharton was a disappointment. Bobby Brown didn't get enough snaps, in my opinion. And to me, Turk Wharton needs to be a situational tackle. He was brought in here to get pressure. And I honestly think that's where he needs to be. I think you need a guy like Lee Hunter on 1st and 2nd down. You need a guy like Turk Wharton on 3rd downs. You need Bobby Brown on the 1st and 2nd. Same thing with Lee Hunter. You could argue taking Pat Jones, sliding him inside, maybe Nick Scorton sliding him inside, Jalen Phillips sliding him on one inside, and then run that same type of NASCAR on the 3rd or 4th, 3rd down, blah, blah, blah. I'll get it out in a minute. On 3rd and long. We could run our own version of the NASCAR. Because we definitely have the opportunity now. Especially now that we've added the type of players that we've added in Jalen Phillips. This is where Coach Avero's going to have to get creative. Not to mention, Trayvon Merrick is a very good blitzer. This is going to be a situation where Lee Hunter is going to have to be the guy that A'Shawn Robinson was last year. And realistically, if our run defense was middle of the road, Panther Nation, don't get it twisted. Don't pretend like, oh, we just had this dominating defense. Let's say we run a scenario where we draft Kenyon Sadiq and we're just throwing the ball all over the yard. What do you think defenses are going to start to do? If they can't stop us, they're going to blitz us crazy. But what do you think the opposing teams are going to do offensively? Run the ball. That's right. Because if you don't take Lee Hunter, let's say you take one of these top receivers, or better yet, let's say you don't take Monroe Freeland. Let's say you take Kenyon Sadiq with the 1st pick, and then you come back and you take a tackle in the 2nd round, and you don't address the defensive tackle position. Teams ain't going to... I was actually surprised, you guys, and you've heard me say this on this show enough. I was more surprised that other teams stopped running the football, particularly the Atlanta Falcons. Go back and look at the statistics. Bijan Robinson was just about over 5 yards both games. Probably one of the reasons for Raheem Morris's dismissal. But people, you can't get caught up in the hype. We have to continue to stay the course. Make sure we're still doing the things that we're doing while tweaking the recipe enough on the fly. We got a crap ton of receivers now, you guys, that do different things. Which brings me almost to the third pick. But one more thing about Lee Hunter before I go over to a guy that I absolutely loved, and you've seen the show. Lee Hunter is a two-gap run stuffer who demands double teams. What does that do for Derrick Brown? The guy who broke the NFL record before his injury for defensive tackles in total tackles in one season? Over 100? You get a guy like Lee Hunter in there that demands just as much attention as Derrick Brown. Now that's the kind of run stuff in defense that makes defensive coordinators like Coach Avero salivate. Because you can't do anything with it. You can't do anything with a guy that you can't stop. And if we can get these guys in third and longs, with the type of corners we have, good luck. Especially if we establish who's going to be in the slot. But let us take a look at the guy who, in my opinion, I can't wait to see this guy on game day. A lot of people are already putting XL out the door because this guy's here. And of course he wears XL's number too. But Chris Brazzell II, 6'4", 198 pounds. I just want to throw a negative growl out to Chat Sports, Panthers. He says he doesn't like this pick, but he's the only SEC wide receiver to have over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns.
What a dumbass!
Dumb shit! Dumb shit! Dumb shit!
Say what? And you got a problem with this. He says, I think his limited route tree demonstrates his limited upside.
Stupid!
Yeah, he plays with T-Mac and Jalen Coker. And if I recall correctly, Rob Moore is our receivers coach. Somebody check that for me. One of the best route runners in his era. Can't teach speed pimping. So here's the thing. Panther Nation, be careful who you listen to. Now, a lot of people say don't disrespect other, podcasters. But my thing is, know what you're talking about. This guy ran a 4.37 40. You don't like this pick. Okay. Apparently you didn't watch him against Georgia. I put it to you like this. As much as you talked about Casey Concepcion, he had Mario Craver. Who did Chris Brazzell have? He was pretty much a one-man wrecking crew. And when he was successful, Tennessee was winning. The guy has breakdown speed. You can't teach that. And with guys like T-Mac, Jalen Coker, and Xavier Legette, and our tight ends, you got to throw in Jimmy Horn Jr. Even Bryson Tremaine. John Mechie III. This receiver room is now officially a wild card. Dave Cannell's going to have a hard time trying to figure out who can get the ball. I'm sorry. This may be why the receiver room has gotten so diverse now. Brad Idzik going to be making the play calls. And by God, I hope he understands what he has. You got a room full of guys that opposing defense is going to look at and say, we got to deal with this. You got one guy that's 6'4", can take the top off the defense, and then he can jump up over you. Just go watch the Georgia game. That's all you got to do. Please, go to YouTube. Go anywhere and look at Chris Brazzell versus Georgia. I hope Bryce understands. If we get blitz situations and Brazzell's on the field, or better yet, I don't care what anybody else does, he needs to run a go route on a blitz, especially if it's cover 0. You put him in motion and send him, because he ain't going to be able to get jammed. For all of the people that have a problem with Chris Brazzell, you didn't watch him. I know people, the experts watched him. The experts watched Puka Nacua too. You got Brazzell in a situation where he's not the number 1 option. Now you have no excuses for how you use and deploy Xavier Legette, Jatavian Sanders, Mitchell Evans, Tommy Tremble. Which that's another thing I got tired of hearing experts talk about. Oh, well, they didn't take a tight end, blah, 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 the production, this, that, and other. Guess what? The tight ends are only as efficient and effective as the scheme. You can sit there and say what you want about Canales' usage of the tight ends in Tampa. A lot of that was Baker. We could sit here and call it what we want. The fact is, Baker does look for his tight ends. This ain't no new condition. He did that at Cleveland. No solution there. We didn't see Bryce use a whole lot of tight end when he was at Alabama. Maybe he needs to be encouraged to use his tight end more. Now, he'll throw it to Tommy Tremble, but you got to give Tremble something to work with. Good routes. Freedom. A lot of your tight ends need freedom to work their zones. A lot of your tight ends need the ability to be told, hey, if this happens, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go that. I think Chris Brazzell was a knockout of the park because this was a guy that was possibly going to be a 2nd-round pick. We got him right there in the smack dab middle of the 3rd. For all those doubters that watch Chat Sports and the ones that come over here that are doubters, I'll holler at you at the end of the season when Brazzell's possibly one of the offensive players of the year. If he's utilized correctly, that's just how efficient this kid is. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be thinking about T-Mac. They're going to talk about Coker. This guy has Ted Ginn speed. Y'all remember that, don't you? I know a lot of you going to say, Bryce ain't got no Cam Newton arm. But he got a hell of a deep ball. Let the safety leave him roaming. Bryce can get it there. I don't care what none of y'all say. All Bryce got to do is release it and he'll run under it. Don't let Bryce fool y'all. Go back and watch his highlights of deep balls last year. Like I said, he's very difficult to stop on deep balls. That's what the report is on him. But he gets another receiver that is 6'3 plus. And the Rams struggled with just 2. And then you throw in Legette at 6'2. The 4th round pick here was very much intriguing. I was not expecting Will Lee to still be on the board right here. But the Carolina Panthers with the 29th pick in the 4th round, as they traded down, they were able to take 6'1", 189-pound Will Lee. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, okay, what's this for? Well, we did need another corner for the slot. This could be a possible competition for Shaw Smith-Wade. And Thornton when he returns. But Will Lee can also compete for that second cornerback position with Mike Jackson out of contract here. I would hate to see this guy go, who has really made a name for himself the last 2 seasons, to the chagrin of a lot of Panthers fans. You guys gave him a lot of flack, and now he's proven himself. There's a lot of podcasters out here to say the same thing, so I want to, take my bows for saying that I thought Mike Jackson was going to be a good player and develop into a good player. We just needed to be patient with him. Same thing with XL. I think ultimately Will Lee is going to be that number 2 corner. I think he's a very feisty guy. He called himself the blanket. And I was listening to a podcaster say something to the effect of, we play a system where we rely a lot on zone. I'm hoping, just hoping, that maybe on some of these 3rd and longs that maybe you'll slide Lee to the outside, maybe put Jackson in the slot. And instead of playing zone, let him play a little man. Maybe mix it up some. Surprise him a little bit. It's no problem with playing some man. Matter of fact, it might surprise you a little bit if you played some man. I think Will Lee is a very good player. I think he's a steal for what we got him. I mean, needless to say, he had, if I recall correctly, mid-second level, second round grades, and then had some 3rd round grades as well. He graded out exceptionally well, and realistically, he's exactly one of those players that you truly want to have on your team. And all these guys we've seen so far, they fit into that Morgan little idea of dogs. And Will Lee is not a guy short on confidence. And to be a corner and an efficient corner, you got to have that. And he has it. He's got that ability. And you've got to look at a guy like that and you got to say, I want that guy on my team. So Will Lee is the guy that we select with the 4th round, 29th pick. And there are so many people that are talking about this next pick, these next 2 picks, as being the heist of the draft. Starting with 6'4", 303 pounds, Sam Hecht, center out of Kansas State. Now, he was one of these guys that I actually initially thought was going to go high to mid 3rd. Here he was still hanging around right here in the 5th round, people. Hecht's scouting report is he plays light on his feet, displays good foot quickness on film. He plays with good balance and core. He's skilled enough to pull and get out on the edge. Hecht does a good job of climbing to the 2nd level and latching on the defenders. Doesn't that sound like a offensive center we need? Especially when we get a guy like Jonathan Brooks back in the mix to go with Chuba Hubbard. Look, Panther Nation, if we get this guy to a place where he can start this year, there's your starter for the next 4 years. But I love the fact that the Panthers were thinking ahead. You want to get these guys' rookie jitters out of the way as soon as possible. Very rarely do you want a guy to come in his first year and have to get these cobwebs out early. You want to give them an opportunity first to be able to absorb the environment before they actually have to play in it. I know a lot of y'all are going to say, well, they've been playing 3 or 4 years in front of 70 to 80,000 people. Not at the best of the best level, people. Okay, Kansas State doesn't play the best players. Tennessee doesn't play the best teams every week. Even Georgia doesn't play the best teams every week. You don't want to throw them in an environment where one mistake can cost you a football game, or it could cost you a touchdown, or just anything. You want them to be in a position where they've acclimated themselves not only to the pressure, but the surroundings. And they're comfortable. Because a comfortable player is a composed player. He knows what he's doing. He's not pushing. He's not rushing. He's going to do his job, and he's going to let the game come to him. When you start forcing the game, Not taking the game to somebody, but forcing the game, bad things happen. Make sense? Now, moving to the number 5, 11th pick, Zakee Wheatley, safety out of Penn State. Now, so many people are telling us we got the steal of the draft, another heist. When I started doing a little research on Zakee Wheatley, 6'3", 203, the scouting report on him is that he shows up around the ball a lot. The only thing is that 40 time. That 40 time really kills it for me, 4.63. But this is a guy who had a lot of missed tackles. We already see that with Nick Scott, so that can be worked out. Scott got a little bit better during the year with his tackles. But I think he could honestly become the guy that could take this spot. Of course, everybody wants a guy like a Kyle Hamilton or Nick Emmanwori and Dylan Thieneman. But unfortunately, we didn't get that choice. But I still love the fact that we got a safety who's long, somewhat rangy, but he's always around the ball. He's a ball hawk. We'll see if that straight line speed translate. And I think many of you guys need to find something interesting that I looked up. When I looked up the numbers on Zakee Wheatley, it said he ended up running a 4.62, but then he had a 1.61 and a 1.64 10-yard split, which means he represents a quickness to the ball, which is absolutely imperative when you think about how quick safeties have to read and react and how quickly they actually move to where they're going. Broad jump and vertical jump, not impressive, but the 10-yard split is important. So it does mean that when he reacts, his legs are very reactive. He just doesn't have what you call long speed. He has a lot of trouble recovering when someone beats him. So hopefully he's a guy that can diagnose plays, and he's shown the ability to diagnose exceptionally well. So that bodes well for him if he is the guy that goes into the future. But I'm excited as we get prepared to take on our last selection in this draft, and Jackson Kouach, whom I heard many people say that this guy is a tackle machine. Out of Miami of Ohio, he walked on at Ohio State, where he didn't see the field for 2 straight seasons, as he was a full-time starter for Ohio in 25. Finished with the second most tackles on the team, 109. He plays fast and with energy and does a good job flowing to the ball. So you could look at him, 6'4", 235. He would possibly be a pretty darn good backup and a good special teams player. And I look at him as a special teams performer and a possible depth piece. Don't know much about him. I know I've heard a lot of people say some really good things about how he tackles. He's very efficient and he's very physical. So definitely am happy about what we were able to get in the 7th round, 11th pick. And the size is incredible too, 6'4", 235. Exactly what you want out of a linebacker, just not nearly as quick and experienced, seasoned, if you will. But guys, that is the draft class of 2026. Now, many of you are probably going to grade this not exceptionally well. Me, I love it. We've seen people, experts ranging from the A- range to several given A's. Noting the selection of Monroe Freeling as an exceptional move, as well as Lee Hunter and Chris Brazel. But let's go down the list. Pro Football Focus says A+, Athlon Sports, Sporting News, The Ringer, DraftWire said A, CBS Sports, NFL Media gave them an A-, USA Today Sports, and Yahoo Sports gave them a B. Sports Info Solutions ranked them the number 1 draft class in the NFL. Yeah. And I'd second all of those. I would say that the Panthers had about an A minus, based on needs and where they were able to select these guys. I think ultimately I would have loved, absolutely loved, that if they could have bring home like Takario Davis, the big, now Willie's a big guy, but I loved Takario Davis's size, the Washington corner. But hey, listen, we could have gotten a Jacob Rodriguez, but that's a possibility. But hey, let's look at it from the standpoint, hey, we've got some guys on this team that are dogs, and that is the mentality that they wanted. And now, especially with Jonathan Brooks slated to return, a lot of you guys are saying, well, what about Rico Dowd on this, that, and the other? Well, we'll just have to wait to see. I don't want to get too far ahead of everything. There's so many weeks we get to talk about all of this. But let's look at what many of the renowned sports writers said. Mel Kiper Jr. from ESPN gave it a B. And I wanted to give y'all, there's this gentleman that I'm going to make sure I put this up in my studio. So when this draft class balls out, I will make sure that I'm making a note to call him out. Sports Illustrated's Gilbert Manzanos gave the Panthers a C- grade. Sure did. Dan Wilkins of The Score gave it a B+. Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports gave it a B. Hayden Winks gave it a B+. And Danny Kelly of The Ringer an A. Luke Easterling of Athlon Sports gave it an A. As I said, Mel Kiper Jr. gave it a B. So those are the notable big-time reporters nationwide. And guys, I must tell you, I give this draft about an A-. And listen, many of you can be upset with not taking someone like a Kenyon Sadiq, but I'm going to tell you something. Chris Brazel's going to give us some fireworks. And then with his fireworks, you're going to unlock Xavier Legette. We're going to get to see T-Mac go deep more. We're going to see Jalen Coker go deep more. Because Brazel's speed is going to wake up teams, people. Not to mention John Mechie. Not to mention guys like Mitchell Evans are going to be able to finally break loose. Jatavian Sanders and Tommy Tremble. And that garbage that we keep hearing about our tight ends don't produce is going to change, because we're going to have more playmakers that are going to open up more space. Guys, Brazel is going to unlock what Ted Ginn used to do. And we got him for at least 4 years. Maybe 3. Let me know what you guys think about the draft class of 2026. Make sure if you like the show, you give it a thumbs up, and you make sure you hit that subscribe button, as well as hitting that bell notification so you can get all of my shows and reels as they drop. Secondly, make sure you go over to Facebook and catch up with us on Growlin' and Prowlin', the page, and then finally join our group, Growlin' and Prowlin', so you can keep up with all of the polls and questionnaires that we will have for Panther Nation. Finally, if you want to check me out or banter with me on Instagram, you can do so by checking me out over at Mr. CeeLo, and check out all my other shows and shenanigans that I will be caught up in. But until the next time, keep prowling the airwaves and growling out. Keep pounding.